And on to our next session. We're going to look at AI as a catalyst for business reinvention. I'm going to introduce shortly Jared Spataro to the stage. He's Corporate Vice President for AI at Work at Microsoft. Leads Microsoft's modern work and business applications team, which is dedicated to helping every person and every organization to adapt to a new world of work. His team drives research to help predict and shape what the future of work and business will look like right across industries. So please give a round of applause and welcome to the stage, Jared Spataro.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. It is an honor to be at the conference. My job at Microsoft is what we call AI at work. And essentially, that boils down to just something very simple. There's so much innovation happening in AI right now. My team sits in between the innovation and the market, the customers, trying to understand how we can take the latest innovations and apply them to problems, and then look at the problems and come up with more innovations. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what is happening when it comes to the application of AI to business. Now, let's jump in for a moment and just put ourselves in the context. Hardly a day goes by without us seeing AI in the news. And many of the headlines are fairly positive. They talk about the promise and the potential of AI. But at the same time this is happening, of course, there is also fear and consternation out there. And I can understand that. As humans, it's very natural for us to fear something that we don't understand and something that's unknown. There's a lot we actually still don't understand about AI, even the folks who are inventing it, and there's a lot that is still yet to play out. So today in our session, I'd like to talk a little bit about the promise and some of the pitfalls and how we can mitigate those. Now, sometimes I found in my career that it's valuable to first recognize we don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict exactly where things are going. But we do have the opportunity to look backwards and have that inform what we're thinking about the future. So I want to take a moment and have you look at this picture. Maybe you have seen this image before. When we dug it out of the archives, it was the first time I had seen it a couple of weeks ago. Turns out that this photo of a sky and a rooftop in the French countryside is what we believe to be the very first photograph ever taken. It was taken by a French inventor who was experimenting with the basic principles of photography. Now pause for a moment and think about the world reaction. Fairly predictable. There were folks across the world that were incredibly excited about the potential of being able to record what they could see in a transmittable, shareable format. But likewise, there were folks on the other side of the debate that were very worried about what it meant for the world. And in particular, they were worried about what it meant for artistic expression. Would this kill the arts? Would all of a sudden we be reduced down into a new way of living where essentially technology had overtaken our lives? Now, as we think about this, it is important to recognize that today, with hindsight, we understand that photography did not kill the arts. In fact, instead, it just changed the way humans actually interact with and experience their world. It gave us as the human family a new and different perspective on time, on history, on beauty, on communication. In many ways, as photographs and the cameras that took them became more and more accessible to people, it democratized storytelling. It created new ways to explore the world and our place in that world and to share that with other people. It began to permeate our culture, our society, even our economy. And today, we actually all have a camera in our pocket that we carry with us almost every waking hour. So that look backwards for a moment can help us understand how pervasive technology can become, but also the very divisive feelings that people can have about it. Now, just like photography changed the world, AI is clearly going to have a big impact on how we interact with the world and with each other. In fact, I would assert that AI is going to redefine the human experience, how we live, how we work. It will really rewrite the rules for what it looks like to create, to consume, to connect, to in many ways certainly be a human in this century. And nowhere will it be felt more acutely, more keenly than at work. Now, if we take a look at technology at work, specifically starting with the PC revolution, since its inception, computing has essentially asked people to adapt their behaviors and their work patterns to the strengths, the capabilities, but also the limitations of that technology. And it's important to note here with this very simple model that the machines we introduced with the PC revolution were essentially general purpose computing machines. They took the ability to compute, to add, to subtract, to perform computing functions, and applied that to all sorts of different problems. Well, arguably, we have something very new and very important with the introduction of generative AI. And this may be one of the most important things I say during this session today. Generative AI is based on compute, but it gives us a new innovation. It gives us an innovation that I will call a general purpose reasoning machine. Where the PC revolution introduced a general purpose computing machine, we now have a general purpose reasoning machine. Now, it certainly understands the language. Anyone who's used ChatGPT has that sense. But it does more than that. It can actually literally reason stochastically, statistically, toward a solution to a given problem, the same way that people would reason. And as the underlying foundation models get better and better, we are seeing it reason close to how humans reason. It still gets things wrong. We expect here over the coming months, we'll start to see basic LLMs, basic foundation models that will get better at human reasoning than humans. That's an interesting proposition. Now, where has this mostly been applied? Up to this point in business, over the course of roughly about the last 12 months, we are already starting to see this come to life in a realm that I will call personal productivity. The last speaker spoke about this. Essentially, a personal assistant that helps you get your work done. Now, how many of you out there are already using a personal assistant, some sort of LLM-based tool to get your work done? Maybe a show of hands? Great. We have a biased sample. We're at this conference about AI after all. But the research actually tells us that whether it is OpenAI's ChatGPT, it is Google's Gemini, or Microsoft's Copilot, that in fact, more people than we ever realize are already starting to bring these tools to work. They're starting to experience what a basic assistant can help them do. And that is already reprogramming, if you will, the basic workflows of personal productivity. For instance, we're already seeing AI as a personal assistant being able to rework things like email, or basic information that you would see when you do information retrieval, even composing or creating content, and even working through your schedule. Microsoft Copilot is just a little over a year old. We introduced it in March of last year, and it has been an amazing journey for us. Already, we are seeing, as we've done some experiments, both in the lab and in the wild, some pretty impressive results. For instance, we have found that users are completing tasks faster, almost 30% faster for most basic information worker tasks. We see that they're spending a lot less time searching for information, and they're even having more effective meetings. That last stat says that they catch up on meetings they missed almost 4 times faster. And we're seeing new work patterns already emerge as people use Microsoft Copilot within the context of their daily work. But my favorite stat out of all of this is this one. We find that after 4 weeks of using Copilot, almost 80%, 77% tell us that they don't want to give it up, that they are so entranced by what it can do for them that it's an incredible tool that they can use. And we're finding that our best users, after just a few weeks of work and understanding the strengths and limitations of the tool, are saving 10 plus hours a month. So that leaves us with a big question. What would you do with 10 more hours a month? It's a very interesting proposition. Now, I've been using Copilot for a little over a year, since its very inception, since before we even called it Copilot, and it certainly has started to change my work habits. I found, as an example, that I don't handle email the same way. As you see on this screen, a lot of my email handling now actually doesn't even happen in the email client. It's happening in a chat interface where I can ask, essentially, Copilot to look across my entire inbox, help me understand what's hot, what needs my attention, and then, as you see here, help me even respond to that based on what it knows about my job. I also find that my relationship with meetings is very different. First off, I don't view meetings in the same way, and frankly, I can attend less of them, and that's always very, very good news. Copilot helps you catch up with meetings. It allows you to query a meeting, to ask what happened. I love to miss meetings and ask what key people thought or what their opinion was at the beginning of the meeting and by the end of the meeting. Copilot can do an analysis across a transcript that kind of really is an impressive view of rewiring the workflow. But I would say that perhaps one of the things that still knocks my sock off the very most is the ability to do what you see here. Taking artifacts, 2 different examples of artifacts there, and asking Copilot to do some real work, drafting, in this case, a new document that brings together stuff that's already been produced. I just can't get over the way it can produce this so well. Now, it's not perfect. Doesn't mean it doesn't make mistakes, but boy, does it speed the process of me synthesizing information and using that to make decisions and to move the ball forward. It all happens in just a few seconds, and that rewiring of the personal productivity workflow is incredible. But at the same time, we recognize that there are things to do. It's still early days for Microsoft Copilot. So we're working to make it more personalized to you so that it understands you and your job better. We're making it more proactive so you don't have to ask it to do everything, so that you can show up at work and it can do some of those basic tasks that you always do just right off the bat. And we're making it more powerful, especially as these foundation models become more powerful and have the ability to analyze and use your work artifacts more effectively. Ultimately, that 10 hours saved a month will easily go to 15. The 15, I think, will easily get to 20. Within this calendar year, we will see essentially folks who know how to use these tools in pretty impressive ways, changing the entire structure of their days. But one of the most interesting things that's happening in the marketplace right now is that we've come so far so fast. In fact, today as I meet with high-ranking executives in companies all across the world, I don't have to spend much time convincing them that this can save them time. In fact, talking about 10 or 20 hours a month saved, that doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility. Most of them already have studies that show that they can achieve that. But they're looking for more, and that puts us in the place that we're in the market right here, right now. Personal productivity is good, but it's not enough for what people are expecting out of generative AI. People are expecting not just personal productivity, but they're expecting it to impact the bottom line in one of 2 ways, either to increase value, or said more directly, increase revenue, or to reduce costs in very significant ways. Now, to understand where we're going in the next chapter, beyond personal productivity, you have to back up for a second and just understand that at its core, every company out there is simply an amalgamation of business processes. Closing the books, chasing down your sales pipeline, even working accounts receivable, those are all processes. And the way things work today, mostly we have digitized a lot of those processes at the information level. But people still essentially act as human middleware, taking the information, making decisions, and moving the work forward. Not very much, in reality, of what happens within a business is all that automated. It's digitized. It's ready for automation, but it's pretty tedious work that people still drive. So AI, we believe, in this next chapter is going to do exactly that. It will allow organizations to really look at every process within their firm and to reinvent it, to think about how they can streamline it, how they can automate it. It will automate long-running tasks with memory and with the ability to create plans and follow those plans. It will reason over input from both humans and information systems. It will learn from people's feedback on how well, as an AI agent, it did its job. It will even ask for help from people when it gets stuck. That may seem like a long ways away. We already have agents that we're working with our customers on right now that do exactly that. And if and when we can bring that to scale, it will unlock some incredible productivity gains for us. That will allow us to say that while right now the current chapter has been focused on personal productivity, this idea of an assistant for every person, the next chapter will build on that and move on to organizational productivity. We'll move to a place where AI will start to really look at processes. Now, as I work with customers, it's no longer a question of if this will happen, it's just when, how fast it will happen, what they need to do to ensure that they're on the cutting edge. We will be moving into a new chapter here, literally this calendar year. Now, as we take a look at this, one of the places where this will be profoundly felt in the context of an organization is actually the size, the structure, the shape of human organizational structures. Now, oftentimes there are many ways we can talk about what the technology is going to do, but I think its impact on people and how they work in a firm might be one of the most profound that we'll see. Now, we're not just talking about job loss. There will be some job displacement. There's no question about that. There will be some roles eliminated as AI essentially automates out jobs that are made up of tasks that can be automated. But it's more than just elimination of jobs. History consistently shows us that technology creates more opportunities than it destroys. And here, what we envision, what we think will happen, is that AI will start to have an elevated presence within the organization. It will no longer just be a personal assistant like a co-pilot is today, but it will emerge from behind the scenes and start to have a seat at a table. And what I mean by that is you will start to interact with it, and as groups you will start to interact with it. No longer will it just be human-to-human collaboration, but it will be human-to-human to AI collaboration. That change will have very profound implications. It will mean that we change the way we organize ourselves, but it will also have profound implications for the skills that we put a premium on from people. We will, for instance, very much put a premium on skills of being able to build, maintain, direct, and effectively use these AI agents. So don't get worried that the AI is coming to take your job. Get worried that the people who know how to use AI are coming to take your job. We will also highly value uniquely human skill sets that I think will remain uniquely human for some time. Relationship building and negotiation, strategic planning and creative visioning, decision-making, and moral reasoning. Now, just to close out kind of these thoughts, I'd like to take a step back. I am always a tech optimist. There certainly are things for us to work through. But AI and this generative AI technology that we see today is really going to help level the playing field. And we already see it lowering the barrier to entry in so many different ways. You no longer have to have, for instance, a degree in graphic design to produce amazing graphics. You don't need a career as a data scientist to make sense of a sea of numbers. You don't need an administrative assistant to manage your calendar or work through your inbox. AI is already getting very good at all of those tasks in a very, very practical way. And soon, you won't need teams of hundreds to scale a global business. And that, I think, should give us all pause. But at the same time, I want to take a moment before we transition to the next slide to say, man, as a tech optimist, I see so much opportunity. AI will truly create more opportunities by leveling the playing field for people who don't have access to resources today. As we look at some of our most complex problems in the world today, I think AI comes just in time with this general purpose reasoning engine that we can use. And AI will help us scale up in ways that we can't do today, scaling to really solve incredible challenges that we face today, like things like climate change. All right, well, from here, I want to not just talk about the theory, but I want to talk about how practically within business this is happening. Because what I just told you isn't just what will be in 3 to 5 years, it's literally what cutting-edge practitioners are doing today. So I'm very excited that in just a moment, we will invite up to the stage Marna Ricker, who's the Global Vice Chair for EY, focused on tax. Now, just for a moment before I bring her up, she oversees all aspects of tax at EY. That means she supports operations, people development, all the client relations, quality control, the risk management, and more. She is where the buck stops when you think about their entire business. She runs the tax business at EY. And what's really exciting to me is that Marna is already using AI to rewire the way she does business. So please give a warm welcome to Marna Ricker, who's coming up to the stage. Thank you, Marna. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here.
Very excited to have you. We've talked a little bit about the theory here, but I have this opportunity now to have the audience hear from you just about how you are using Gen AI. So I want to talk about the tax world, which, as we were talking earlier today, turns out is not nearly as boring as I thought. It is pretty fascinating, in fact, all the things happening. So could you just give the audience for a moment your view on how AI is changing tax and tax processes?
Yeah, so look, there's maybe 3 big ways we're getting after it. You talked about personal productivity. There's the data aspect and unlocking the data piece of certainly the work. And then really there's the strategic aspect and element that we're really focused on. So you hit personal productivity. To me, that's all about just getting it in the hands of people and the tools they already use on M365 Copilot. So that's, it's amazing. We're actually seeing 14 hours versus 10. So, a really even higher productivity that we're getting. But that's just about getting their hands on it and getting them used to it. On the data side, think about how much data is in the hands of tax professionals. It's the invoice level. And so we're just seeing extraordinary value being unlocked, through that aspect or element. And then last but not least, on the strategic side. So if you unlock all that value from a data perspective, almost 70% of what tax professionals do, if you can believe it, is spend time with data, right? That's how we collect taxes. That's how we report taxes ultimately. And so if you do that faster, better, if generative AI is getting smarter and smarter around that, there's amazing, extraordinary strategic value that the certainly tax professionals can add to a business. So think about how much cash, we can generate ultimately for a company and many, many other big capital decisions that companies are making. So we're seeing a lot of strategic value that you were talking about being unlocked.
Fantastic, thank you. So as you think about some of the pain that you experience, your team experiences all across the world day to day, are there specific pain points that it's able to address for you right now? I know information was one that you and I talked about, so much information they have to take in. In addition to the data, there's just a lot of stuff they have to know.
Yeah, maybe I'll hit on when I hit that 70% stat on data. Maybe what I'll focus on the next one is we have massive, massive amounts of regulatory change. I was sharing with Jared that there are 255 million regulatory tax laws on the books. And every time there's a new, a new president, a new change, from a political perspective, those change. And so you can imagine how difficult it is to keep up. So what we're seeing with Gen AI, it has the ability to track 255 million regs globally. And so think about how fast you can keep up, and you can think about the application of that to your business. So I'll just use that as one of the simple examples of what we're seeing. And that's pretty extraordinary for a tax department to be able to keep up with that and think about the application to their business. So there's no way a human could do that. So it's pretty extraordinary.
Fantastic, thank you. I'll just look, do we have time for other questions, or are we at time at this point? We're at, okay. Great, Marna, thank you so much.
Well, jump in, that's what I would say. No matter where you are in the stage, I have to say Gen AI favors the bold. So you're all here for that reason, so jump in. That would be my closing comment.
Marna, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for having us here.
All right.